All right, I believe we're all settled. I would now like to introduce the candidates running for Kennewick City Council Position 1. They are in alphabetical order, Don Britton and Lindy Verhei. As a reminder, you each have 1.5 minutes for your opening statements. So with that said, Mr. Britton, your opening statement, please.
Well, thank you very much. My name is Don Britton. I am seeking re-election to the Kennewick City Council. This is a good opportunity to tell you a little bit about myself. It doesn't get a chance to do that very often. I am a lifelong resident of the city of Kennewick. Born in Kennewick, I went to Fruitland Elementary, Westgate Elementary, Highlands Middle School, graduated from Kennewick High School, and graduated from Columbia Basin College. So I do have deep roots in the city of Kennewick. My real job, aside from city council, is I work with the Department of Social and Health Services. I work in a diverse office serving a diverse population in Benton and Franklin counties, primarily working with individuals and families that are not working. So one of my priorities, my main priority being on the city council, is economic development and job creation. And I think in the city of Kennewick, we have a lot going on that help promote that. We have 3 areas in Kennewick: the Southridge area, which just continues to be a huge success. 300 jobs created, $300 million in mixed-use development. We have our wine village in partnership with the Port of Kennewick. And then we have our Vista Field, which is another boom just waiting to happen. So in the next 4 years, we need to expand our urban growth area in South Kennewick. That's a main goal of ours. I think that's going to require proven and established leadership. And I would ask for you to rehire me another 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Britton. Ms. Verhei.
Well, I want to start by saying thank you all for being here. I know something that I want to do as a city councilor is to foster community involvement. And just seeing all your faces here is wonderful. I love having a show of people. That's wonderful because community involvement is so important to our government and our democracy as a whole. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and the Consejo Latino for putting this on. And I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I am a lifelong Kennewick resident also. I went to Kennewick Public Schools. Ms. Johnson was my principal at Highlands Middle School. And I graduated from Southridge High School, and then I went on to WSU Tri-Cities and have a Bachelor of Science in Psychology from WSU Tri-Cities. I currently work as a substitute teacher. I have a background in counseling, both in mental health counseling and in drug and alcohol counseling. And currently I'm starting on a master's degree in education, specializing in K through 8 with special education endorsement. One of the main reasons why I'm running is because I really care about the kids in our community. And I really think that they need to have a voice because they're not old enough to vote, right? And one of the main things I want to do, everything that Don said is wonderful, and I want to add to that too, but I also want to be a voice for those that are too young to vote. And I want to make sure that they are set up and they go and succeed before they have a chance to fail.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the questions for these candidates. Alphabetical order. Mr. Britton, you are up first. What is your position on the link? Would you recommend that people vote for or against it, and why?
I think the link project is a great project. As a city councilman, I can't recommend somebody to vote for or against it. So personally, though, I think if that project was approved and built, it would provide an exceptional quality of life alternative for a lot of citizens in Kennewick. And I think it would be a catalyst for the development of our Vista Field area we're working with in partnership with the Port of Kennewick. The Toyota Center is in dire need of improvements. Anybody that's been to a hockey game in there, and there's been some improvements over the last few years, but those seats, 2 hours in a seat, you come out of there sore. So the Performing Arts Theater is a great asset. And the bottom line, too, is the convention center is losing conventions. We lost 8 conventions this year from 2017 to 2018 that are not coming back because of lack of space. They're going to other cities and they're taking their money with them. And that generates revenue when we have conventions in our area. People spend money in the Tri-Cities and spend money in Kennewick. So I do support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Verhei?
I am 100% in support of the LINK project and also the development of the Vistafield area. I think that's an important place that's going to bring a lot of business, not just temporary visiting groups bringing money into our economy, but also bringing permanent family wage jobs. Not all of them will be family wage jobs, but hopefully more and more can be. I really think that maintenance on the Toyota Center is a priority. We got to, just like we maintain a car, we have to maintain our buildings and make it more attractive to groups besides the hockey team, which is wonderful. And Mr. Britton was right, those seats can be really difficult to sit in for 2 hours. So definitely need to maintain those buildings and build on the Vistafield project and the LINK. I'm in favor of that.
Thank you, Ms. Verhei. Now you will answer first. Are there areas in the current city budget where you would like to see an increase in spending or a decrease in spending? And why do you think this change in spending would benefit the city of Kennewick?
Something that I talked about in my interview with the editorial board at the Tri-City Herald was getting a little bit of funding for a mentorship program for our kids. And my proposal, if I become elected, would be to match a volunteer with a grade school age kid and have that, with the goal of having that same kid having the same mentor up until they graduate. Mentorship is one of the most wonderful things that a kid can have, a positive adult influence. Most of us have really wonderful parents, and why not add another adult influence in a person's life? I in no way think that the city of Kennewick should pay for 100% of that program, but maybe a small portion, and then the rest being funded by individual donors and business donors as a fundraiser type thing. But that is something that I think we should invest in. Our children are our investment, and if we don't invest in them, we're going to continue to see problems. And if we have a mentor, we're going to have the graduation rate go up, which means our crime rate would go down, and overall have a better community.
Thank you. Mr. Britton?
Okay, it's working again. So one of the primary responsibilities of City Council is to provide a safe environment to our citizens in Kennewick. And that includes police and fire, as well as infrastructure. So if there was an area that I could increase, it would be in our public works area. It's vitally important, especially after this last winter, with the road situations that we had and the wear and tear that it got on that. We got a lot of criticism. We did take action on it. Spent over $1 million. But we budget by priorities. We budget on information that we receive from our citizens on what they're willing to spend their money on. And public safety always comes to the top, because I think everybody wants that police officer to be at their house when an emergency happens. They want that fire department there at their house when there's a fire. But they also want their toilets to flush. They want the water to turn on. They want to be able to drink the water. And so infrastructure really is an area that we really need to make sure that we keep funded well. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Verhei? I should read you another question? Oh, you are going first again, Mr. Britton. And question number 3 is, there have been discussions regarding collective bargaining for the city being held under the Open Public Meetings Act. Do you support such a change?
Okay, we still got a battery working here. I don't, because nobody really has shown me statistical data that contract negotiations are better when they're held in public. And until that happens, I think when negotiations, the falsehood is that they're all done in private, everything's done behind closed doors. But as councilmen, we're updated constantly on contract negotiations. And the contracts are voted on publicly and discussed publicly. They're put in the packets for the public to see and come and make comments on. But there are issues, I think, that the concern of mine is when sometimes they go out in public, people will negotiate to the camera or to the people in the audience and really not get down to the details that need to be done. And so until somebody can show me that contracts are better for the taxpayers negotiated in public, then I'm not for that. Thank you.
Now, Ms. Verhei, would you like me to repeat the question? Sure. There have been discussions regarding collective bargaining for the city being held under the Open Public Meeting Act. Do you support such a change?
That's a really tough question because I think it's more than a yes or no answer. I would say that the beginning of negotiating contracts should be private, just because of some of what Mr. Britton said, but also, the public doesn't necessarily know how these contract negotiations start and go through. I would support union contracts being, the finalized contract before it's voted on and decided. I would support having those open to the public and have some transparency there for sure. But as far as the beginning negotiations, I don't see a place for that. But towards the end, yes.
Thank you. Ms. Verhei, you're up again. How would you address poverty and homelessness in Kennewick?
Boy, that's an easy question, said no one. So that is a really hard question, right? And our city does deal with that. And I think that folks, I've worked with people that are in that situation as a drug and alcohol counselor. I saw a lot of homeless people that were going from shelter to shelter, from couch to couch, and it is a huge problem. But what I do want to say about that is we need to find ways to get these people out of jail if they haven't committed a crime. Vagrancy shouldn't be a crime. I don't know. In order to get a person to not be homeless, we need to give them the right programs to, essentially help themselves. And a lot of programs, are wonderful, but they do have guidelines that people don't fit into, such as, faith-based programs are wonderful. They do wonderful things, but not everybody is going to go through that. Some programs are sobriety-based, and not everybody is going to go through that, unfortunately. And I think that we as a community need to figure out ways that work, and one of those things I like to do is look at national data and see what has worked for other cities and build off of that. That way we don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Thank you. Mr. Britton.
Thank you. I belong to a statewide organization called the Association of Washington Cities. I'm vice president of that organization. We just had a board meeting on Friday, and we voted on one of our 2018 legislative priorities is to additional funding to the cities to help with affordable housing and homelessness. So they will be advocating as lobbyists to the legislature to get funding for that. I mentioned earlier that I work with the Department of Social and Health Services. I see people in poverty every single day, and I see families struggle every single day. And that's hard to see. And you want to offer more to them. But I tend to side on individual responsibility as a way of helping people. I mentioned earlier, too, that my goal on council is economic development and job creation. I think it's important to give people the opportunity to go work so they have money for housing, so they have money to afford insurance that they can't afford, so they can provide for their families. And I think that's a big deal. And I will continue to advocate for affordable housing at a state level, but also for economic development in Kennewick to get jobs for people so they can become self-sufficient, and I have to rely on programs like that so they don't have to worry about where am I going to sleep the next day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Britton and Ms. Verhei. For Kennewick City Council Position 1 candidates, thank you for participating tonight. Good job.
Tracy.
Thank you.